I'll give you the final names for our little firing line. Same rules as last time. If you know them, you know them. Give us a story if you've got one. First name is Bob Orton Sr.
Didn't know him. I met him a couple times. One funny story: we're in Kansas City in a big auditorium there. The big, wherever the big place is, seat 15,000+ people. Hulk Hogan and everything else. So me and Bob, I think it was when Bob and I, it was after the Piper thing. So Bob and I were tag partners, at least traveling a lot together, healing a lot. And Bob was a cigarette smoker. And, I know how he kept his matches and cigarettes and stuff. I was eating with him on the road, out to dinner and stuff all the time. He'd be one of the guys that eat and stop and have a cigarette in the middle of his meal. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, so we go in, so Bob Orton Sr.'s there. So, everybody's shaking hands. I look on the ground, there's Bob's cigarettes, a package of cigarettes with the matches, the way he fixed them up and how he stuck them in the package and stuff. I said, "Hey, Bob, here, your cigarettes. You dropped them." No, they're not mine. I said, "Yeah, these are yours." No, somebody else's. Why am I saying? Hey, he's a smoking fool. I said, "What do you mean they're not yours?" No, they're not mine. They're not mine. But that's it. That's my Bob Orton Sr. story.
Couldn't you have heard his voice? You must know he smokes about 180 a day. He had like the deepest voice.
He didn't want the old man to bust him, though.
Bad LeRoy Brown.
That guy he was like John Milolo from down the docks. He could sleep anywhere at any time, anyhow. He'd get in the car and his head would go back and he'd be out. He was, if he was on a trip and he'd miss the meat spot, he'd race to catch you up so he didn't want to drive. That guy wanted to sleep. Good worker. He was Ron Daniels. He played football for the Dallas Cowboys for a while. A big guy, athletic, good fun. He's cool.
Bobby Duncam.
He was one of Gary Hart's boys in Tampa, and he was kind of finishing up there. Athletic guy, was a football player. I think he played for the St. Louis Cardinals. Was out of the West Texas State, hell of a worker, but kind of a bigger, more athletic type guy than a funk style, but could still go like hell. He was getting ready. They were going up to who was Bruno the champion? Yeah, Bruno was. So he was getting. That was that Philadelphia. He had a big show. We went for a battle royal, and he was up there for somebody was putting him over, getting him ready right for Bruno. He was up there when Lou bladed everybody in the ring, and blades on every hand and his razor blade. The first time I ever did a blade job. Then they're opening the Spectrum there, and somehow Lou got in the battle royal for some reason. Stood in the middle of the ring, and everybody was like there was fire. Everybody backed up.
I take it was an involuntary.
But earlier I didn't know. I came back, I cuts all over me.
I take it was an involuntary blade job. He didn't say, "Listen, I've got an idea."
No. He would go. If they wanted, he'd cut the hell out of it. He'd come back and he'd stick his tongue through his cheek. Look what I did. He'd stick his tongue out the side of his mouth. He'd do a straight azer. He did straight azer or pocket pull.
Jesus.
He just go. I don't know why they got. Maybe from Reno and Curtis or how they got that way. Abdullah and him. They just love to scar their forehead up.
Yeah, you get addicted to the blood loss, I suppose. I'll give you a few more, and then we will shut down. Bryant St. John.
Artist. He was good. He was in the House of Humperdinck. Hump was a great guy. That second time there, he was our manager. He ended up. He was managing. He managed the Blondes. That was the second coming. I had Buddy Roberts and Jerry Brown earlier. He traveled with them. Then Stan Lane and Brian St. John, and he had those guys as under his, as he was managing them. And I know he loved his art. He was always into his art. I heard he's doing now. He's on Facebook or something, and he's selling artwork and stuff. Nice guy, good worker.
I will have to ask this just because you brought his name up. Sir Oliver Humperdinck. Did he have like some sort of inner turmoil because he was trying to hide the fact he was gay?
I don't know. I didn't know. I'm not sure that he was gay. I know he liked women. I know.
Oh, really?
Or yeah. Or he never mentioned it. He never went off around us. He was he could very well could have been. He ended up good friends with Terry and those guys, but maybe I don't know, just because he didn't fit. The New York clique was hard to get into. Everybody was all over the place. With families and traveling. It was a conducive area for making friends when you're in the WWF. You don't know who you're with or where you're going or what you're doing.
I should reveal my source. I did an interview with Ricky Morton about a week or so ago, and he said he was gay. So I didn't know if it was like a secret in the business or.
Bam Bam asked me that one time, and I said I didn't know, and I didn't. I knew around Tampa and stuff. He liked the young lady. He spoke of the young ladies and liked them. I never knew of him to be have a boyfriend or something. I mean, it could be. If it was, he was a good one. He was a good guy. Still didn't. And he turned into he was like Dusty. He turned into Booker when that period that you're talking about that Florida was starting to decline as a championship wrestling from Florida. When he was Dusty's right hand man for a long time. He was a big Dusty Rhodes fan. We'd go up. We lived in the north end of Tampa. There was the country, but there's a rock and roll bar up there. Dusty used to love to go and sing Johnny Be Good and stuff. They'd let him up go, and he said, "Oh yeah, there's Humperdinck standing with the lighter." No, I was over at Hump's house a lot. Yeah, he could have been, but I don't know.
Well, if he was, he's welcome to it.
Yeah.
So, doesn't matter. Who cares? I'll tell you what, I'll skip through a couple more. You've already mentioned Scott McGee. Paul Jones, Mr. Florida.
Very talented wrestler. He was another guy. He was going as I was coming, or he'd been there. He'd been in Florida and left and made a hell of a mark in Florida with Jack Briscoe and Tim Woods and Wrestling 2 and the cast of characters that they had down there. Then he was up in Charlotte. I only spent a few months in Charlotte, and he was kind of finishing up there. He wasn't no longer the big card that he was, but he was around. He had a great head. Nice guy, great guy. He was way,
Sorry.
No.
Okay. I'll give you two more. Reggie Parks.
Oh yeah, he was a good guy. He's the one. He started making all the belts for everybody. He was the original championship belt maker. He all his life, I think, lived in Nebraska, Omaha. I think Omaha, Nebraska. Out of there, very simple man. Apartment didn't. Like John told us, he had his couple beers that he wanted and cooked his meals and kept to himself. Had a wife and no kids. He liked to go snowmobiling. They'd go snowmobiling up in Colorado and stuff, up in the mountains and stuff. He was quite an outdoorsman. Good guy. Always in great shape.
I was going to ask that as well. He was a big-time bodybuilder, wasn't he, in the 50s?
I suppose, yeah. I was working with this lady here in Hawaii, 15, maybe 20 years ago when I wasn't really working. I was just trying to keep my foot in the wrestling door, as it were. So he made the belts. He made him tag team belts and a championship belt. So, and she flew him over here too. And his wife came here and we went out to dinner. Had a good time, and he just had some sucker on the line for 3 big belts and $1,000, about $3,000. worth the belts. Beautiful, he used to do beautiful work, leather work, and stuff. The belts he made were fabulous.
Was he the designer as well as the manufacturer?
That I don't know whether they would have their own, send in their own design, or add into what they had, or I don't know what the process was. If he would send them a mock-up or something, or what was going on.
We'll do one last one. Manny Fernandez.
A raging bull. He was a fun guy. He and Barry used to hang out all the time. And crash cars and wreck cars and go crazy. It was a good time. Manny's a good. He's in Tampa now, I think. And hell of a worker. He and Barry used to hang out all the time. He used to fight all the time. I remember I left and the TV in town down at North Albany. Left one time. We're doing promos. I went away sometime. And I came back and there was blood, big trail of blood on the floor. What's this? What the hell's going on here? So Manny and Barry got in another fight, and somebody was, they're friends. One day they were fighting, next day they're friends. You don't know. It was a good time. He got into business. He really got, he really got to love in the business, and really enjoyed it. Traveled around, made a name for himself.
One of Manny's apparent traits that I hear of is he's one of the bigger bullshitters in the business. May that be true in your experience?
He was just getting started when I knew him.
He's just building up.
Yeah, just he was just learning. Maybe later he had, but at the time, it was he was nice to us. I was a heel. He was a babyface, so I didn't get a chance to. Be and listen to many of his stories. I told you about that fight with Nikolai, but that he didn't know. He didn't know they were fighting. It's one case when you're, some guy's 300-pounder turns around. He's been trained boxer, and and he starts throwing left jabs and right hooks, and you don't know what's going on. So it's obvious you're going to get knocked out there. You're not really. You were fooling around with the guy back of the guy's neck. Next second, he's throwing those ham hocks of his into your face. Nikolai had some fists. Nikolai was a big guy. Had legs like the pillars.